It is 8:12 on a Tuesday morning. The Starbucks line is wrapped around the building. A brand new Porsche pulls into the parking lot. Heads turn. Someone whispers, "He must be doing well." A woman glances up from her phone. Two college students stop talking for a second. For almost 10 seconds, that man becomes the richest person in the parking lot. Or at least, that's what everyone believes. 3 spaces away, an old silver Toyota Camry quietly rolls in. The paint is faded. The front bumper has a scratch. One hubcap is missing. Nobody looks. The driver steps out wearing faded blue jeans, an old navy hoodie, and worn-out sneakers. He carries a plain black coffee. No designer watch. No luxury sunglasses. No expensive briefcase. People walk past him like he doesn't exist. 20 minutes later, that invisible man wires $3.4 million into a real estate investment. The Porsche driver gets declined for a $700 credit card payment. Nobody in the parking lot ever learns the truth. Because money has a strange habit. The people who have the most of it rarely need anyone to know. And that's the first lesson. The richest person in the room is usually the one nobody notices. When you were 12, you thought rich people looked rich. Big houses, luxury cars, gold watches, perfect clothes. Movies taught you that. Advertisements repeated it. Social media made it look normal. Nobody ever showed you the millionaire who still buys his clothes from Costco. Nobody filmed the woman worth $8 million driving the same Honda for 12 years. Because those stories don't sell products. The fantasy does. The truth doesn't. And that misunderstanding quietly follows people into adulthood. They spend years buying the image of wealth, instead of building wealth itself. Meet Daniel. Age, 24. First real job. First real paycheck. First taste of adult money. Every Friday. The same routine. Coffee. Lunch with coworkers. A few things from Amazon. A nicer pair of shoes. A phone upgrade every other year. Nothing reckless. Nothing crazy. Just enough to feel like life is finally moving forward. His coworkers love talking about money. Not investing. Not freedom. Spending. Who's buying a new truck? Who's moving into luxury apartments? Who's getting the newest iPhone? Daniel joins the conversations. Because silence feels like falling behind. Then one afternoon, a new employee starts. His name is Michael. He's 53. Quiet. Polite. Always early. Always leaves exactly at 5. He parks the oldest car in the company parking lot. People joke about it. Someone laughs. "Bro, you need a raise." Michael smiles. Says nothing. The joke dies. Life moves on. Nobody thinks about it again. Except Daniel. Because something doesn't make sense. Michael has worked for almost 30 years. Why is he driving a car older than some employees? Where did all his money go? Or did it go somewhere nobody could see? 3 months later, the company hosts a retirement dinner. Not for Michael. For another executive. The room is filled with expensive suits. Luxury watches. Perfect smiles. Someone begins talking about retirement. $1 million homes. Beach houses. Golf memberships. Then the CEO says something unexpected. "If you want to know who actually taught me about money." He points across the room. Toward Michael. The room goes quiet. People laugh. Thinking it's a joke. It isn't. The CEO continues. "He's one of the wealthiest people I've ever met." Silence. Daniel looks at Michael. Then at his faded hoodie. Then at his old Toyota. His brain refuses to connect the two. The CEO smiles. "Michael became financially independent before I became CEO. Nobody touches their food. Because in one sentence, everything they believed about rich people begins to fall apart. If stories like this change the way you see money, not just the way you spend it, subscribe to Dark Capital. Because the biggest financial lessons are almost never taught by the loudest people. They're lived by the quietest ones. That night, Daniel can't sleep. He opens Zillow, looks at $1 million homes, then closes it. He opens Instagram, sees another influencer standing beside a Lamborghini, closes that too. Finally, he opens Google and types one question. Why don't real millionaires look rich? That single search is about to change the next 40 years of his life. 3 days later, Daniel arrives at work earlier than usual, not because he has more work, because he wants to see Michael. For the first time, he isn't looking at the car. He's looking at the man. Michael walks into the office carrying the same black coffee, the same faded backpack, the same calm expression. No rush, no stress, no phone glued to his hand. Daniel notices something strange. Everyone else arrives looking tired. Michael never does. It isn't energy. It's peace. There is a difference. That afternoon, Daniel finally asks, "Can I ask you something?" Michael smiles. "Sure. Is it true?" Michael laughs softly. "Depends what they told you. They said, you're financially independent." Michael nods once. "They're right." Daniel looks confused. "But," he stops himself. "But why do you still work?" Michael stirs his coffee, then says something Daniel will remember for the rest of his life. There's a difference between needing a paycheck and choosing one. The room suddenly feels quieter. Daniel had never considered that those could be two different lives. For him, a paycheck meant survival. For Michael, it meant choice. That single sentence quietly destroys everything Daniel believed about success. Over the next few weeks, Daniel starts noticing things nobody else sees. Michael never argues over promotions, never volunteers for overtime, never panics when the company announces changes. One Friday afternoon, the department receives an email. Mandatory weekend work. Groans fill the office. People cancel family dinners. Birthday plans disappear. Vacation bookings change. Michael walks into the manager's office. 5 minutes later, he walks out smiling. He isn't coming in. Nobody understands why. Until Monday morning. Daniel asks, "Weren't you supposed to be here Saturday?" Michael shrugs. "I said no." "You can do that." Michael smiles. "They asked. They didn't own Saturday." Daniel freezes. He realizes something painful. Nobody owns Michael's weekends, but everyone owns his. That evening, Daniel drives home in silence. Traffic barely moves. Around him, luxury SUVs, brand new pickup trucks, German sedans. Everyone looks successful. Then he starts wondering, how many of these people can actually afford to lose their job tomorrow? How many are one paycheck away from panic? How many own the car? And how many does the car own? For the first time, the traffic looks different. Not expensive, heavy, like thousands of people dragging invisible chains behind them. Weeks later, Michael invites Daniel to lunch. Not at a steakhouse, not at a luxury restaurant. A tiny family diner that's been there for 30 years. Plastic menus, old booths, coffee for $2. Daniel can't help asking, "You could eat anywhere." Michael smiles. "I can. That's why I don't need to." Daniel laughs. Michael doesn't. Then he points outside. A young man is polishing a brand new luxury SUV, taking pictures, posting them online. Michael watches quietly, then says, "Most people don't buy expensive things because they love them. They buy them because they hope someone else will." Daniel says nothing, because deep down, he remembers every purchase he ever made hoping someone would notice. The shoes, the phone, the watch, even the apartment. None of them were really for him. They were for invisible judges, who had already forgotten them. If you're starting to realize that wealth looks nothing like social media taught you, subscribe to Dark Capital, because the quietest financial decisions often create the loudest futures. A month later, the company announces another restructuring. Fear spreads through every department. People whisper. Rumors explode. LinkedIn profiles are updated overnight. Everyone is terrified. Everyone, except Michael. He's watering the small plant on his desk. Exactly like every other Tuesday. Daniel finally asks, "Aren't you worried?" Michael smiles. "No." "Why?" He looks out the window before answering. "Because fear only controls people who have no options." Daniel feels something change inside him. For years, he thought millionaires collected expensive things. Now, he's beginning to understand. Real millionaires collect something far more valuable. Options. And nobody can see those 0.5 years pass. Not dramatically. Quietly. No lottery. No miracle investment. No overnight success. Just hundreds of ordinary mornings. Hundreds of ordinary paychecks. Hundreds of ordinary decisions. That nobody applauded. Daniel still drives the same car. His coworkers don't. Every year, the parking lot becomes more expensive. New Teslas. Luxury SUVs. Sports cars. Every promotion brings another payment. Every raise brings another lifestyle. Every success seems to demand another upgrade. Daniel watches it happen. He says nothing, because now, he knows the difference between wealth and its costume. Age 31. The economy slows. The company announces another round of layoffs. Panic returns. People refresh their emails every 5 minutes. Some quietly begin calling recruiters. Others pretend they're not worried. Daniel notices Michael. Same desk. Same coffee. Same calm. Nothing changes. Then, the emails arrive. Half the department is gone before lunch. Friends disappear carrying cardboard boxes. One of them owns the newest BMW. Another just bought a bigger house. Someone else upgraded to a luxury apartment 6 months earlier. By evening, their group chat has changed. Not photos anymore. Questions. Does anyone know who's hiring? Can somebody review my resume? I don't know how I'm going to make next month's payment. Daniel stares at the screen. A strange thought enters his mind. The cars survived. The payments survived. Only the paychecks disappeared. That night, Daniel opens his own banking app. Emergency fund. Investments. No car loan. No credit card balance. No payments chasing him. For the first time, he doesn't feel rich. He feels safe. And suddenly he understands something Michael never actually said. Money doesn't buy happiness. It buys time to solve problems without panic. That changes everything. The following Friday, Daniel meets Michael one last time before retirement. Not retirement from work. Retirement because he simply doesn't need to work anymore. The company throws him a small party. Cake, coffee, a speech. No luxury gifts. No standing ovation. Just quiet respect. As everyone begins leaving, Daniel asks one final question. If you could go back to 22, what would you buy? Michael smiles. He looks toward the parking lot, toward the old Toyota, then back at Daniel. He says, nothing that needed someone else's attention. Silence. Then he adds, the greatest luxury isn't owning expensive things. It's waking up without needing permission to live your own day. Daniel doesn't answer because there is nothing left to say. 10 years later, Daniel is 41. He isn't retired, but he could be. That's the difference. He still works. Not because he has to, because he enjoys what he does. If his manager becomes unreasonable, he can leave. If another company offers something better, he can wait. If life changes, he has options. The invisible kind. The kind nobody can photograph. The kind nobody posts online. The kind that actually matter. One Saturday morning, Daniel parks outside the same Starbucks. The same parking lot. A bright red Ferrari arrives. Everyone looks. Phones come out. People whisper, that guy must be rich. Daniel smiles. Then another car quietly pulls into the last parking space. An old silver Toyota. A young man steps out. Simple clothes. Plain coffee. Nobody notices him. Daniel quietly laughs to himself. Because 20 years ago, that invisible man would have been him. And maybe, just maybe, that invisible man is the richest person in the parking lot. Again, you will probably never recognize a millionaire at first glance. Not because they're hiding, because they stopped performing. The world taught you. Rich people look expensive. Real life teaches something very different. The wealthiest people often look ordinary because they no longer need strangers to confirm their success. The moment you stop buying applause, you start buying freedom. And freedom never needed an audience. Before you leave, if this story changed the way you think about money, subscribe to Dark Capital. Every week, we tell the stories that schools never teach. The psychology behind wealth. The silent mistakes that steal decades. And the quiet decisions that can completely change your future. Because becoming rich isn't the hardest part. Learning to stop looking rich is.